Hello and welcome back to the Movie Memo Recaps. Today we are going to recap a 2021 movie titled Vengeance is Mine. Please be advised that there will be spoilers ahead. The film begins with a brutal armed robbery. A group of robbers apprehends numerous men and brutally shoots them one by one. After the gunfire, one of the robbers snatches a briefcase, and the group flees in a car. The story then turns to Harry, who is inside his chamber. He appears terribly distressed, as if something horrible from his past is plaguing him. While sitting in this strange solitude, Harry receives a letter in the mail. When he opens it, he sees nothing to report, written by a man named Henderson. This message makes Harry even more unhappy. Harry, frustrated, takes out a stool from under his bed. A dagger is attached to one of its legs, implying that he intends to commit suicide. However, just as he appears ready to do something severe, he abruptly pauses. Harry leaves and sits near the window where he glances out and sees a woman who happens to be an illegal arms dealer. Later, Harry descends to the kitchen where a woman named Emma is preparing a meal, but Harry says nothing to her. Instead, he cooks and eats his own food without speaking. Emma notices him but hesitates. She offers him a cup of tea but, for some reason, pauses in the middle and returns to her work, saying nothing. Later, Harry goes to a local church and begins cleaning. Afterward, Harry eventually settles into one of the church seats and falls asleep. In his dream, he sees a man brandishing a gun and shooting directly at him. Harry awakens, startled by his vivid nightmare. This scenario demonstrates how severely afflicted Harry is, haunted not only by his past, but also by these horrific visions. Following his nightmare, Harry attempts suicide once more, this time by standing on the edge of the church's first floor, preparing to leap. Suddenly, he experiences a tremendous flashback. He recalls his wife and daughter being alive and content at home. In the memory, Harry is on the phone as his wife and daughter appear to cross the street. Suddenly, a car speeds up and hits them, killing them instantly. Harry rushes toward the lifeless victims, overcome with shock and despair. As he approaches the site, he notices the men inside the car, the same criminals that committed the armed robbery earlier in the film. They rapidly attempt to run, leaving Harry devastated by both his personal loss and the fact that the killers escaped. This flashback reveals the underlying tragedy that has haunted Harry and driven him to vengeance. Back in the present, Harry returns to his room and discovers another note in the mailbox. This time, Henderson has sent him some crucial news. According to the letter, Henderson has information on the man who drove the car that killed Harry's wife and daughter and invites Harry to meet with him. Without hesitation, Harry goes to a cafe to meet Henderson. Henderson reveals important information about the robbers and the car during their discussion. He informs Harry of their hiding place and reveals that they run a dirty business from their tavern. Harry thanks him and heads out to the pub. At the pub, Harry orders a beer and silently waits for the appropriate moment to strike. When the bartender walks away, Harry creeps to the back of the tavern. He overhears the goons discussing their illicit activity. He notices one of the men and listens to their chat, confirming that they are the ones he is looking for. Determined to learn more, Harry hides inside their van as they leave the pub. The vehicle takes off, and Harry travels silently with them to an unknown destination. At the location, Harry sees two more goons and recognizes them as members of the gang responsible for his family's death. He silently listens to their chat and watches as two men are led to the rooftop and tied up. The goons force one of the guys to shoot the other two, but when he refuses, they brutally murder the remaining two victims. Harry is terrified to see this terrible killing. Realizing how frightening these men are, he panics and hurries downstairs, hoping to go unnoticed. He raises his cowl to conceal his face and seeks a safe location to observe. Moments later, one of the robbers walks out of the premises, sobbing for his deceased companions. Harry watches in quiet, horrified by the violence and unsure of what to do next, but he knows he can't abandon his revenge plot. After seeing the horrific deaths, Harry returns home. Still determined to exact retribution, he takes his late wife's wedding ring and visits a jeweler. There, he sells the ring for a desirable sum of money. With the money in hand, Harry approaches the arms dealer. After giving her the money, he asks for something vague. The following day, the woman hands Harry a box. He returns it to his room and opens it to discover a pistol and ammo inside. Harry is now armed and ready to execute his plan. He props his mattress against the wall and starts practicing, loading the handgun and firing at the mattress while picturing the faces of the goons who destroyed his life. After emotionally and physically preparing, Harry begins exercising and concentrates on his revenge goal. Before departing, he prays for strength to face what is ahead. Determined, Harry returns to the same area he visited before and waits for the men to leave. Harry enters the building, armed with his gun, and meticulously searches for drugs stored somewhere. Mark, one of the criminals, enters after becoming distracted by the discovery. Harry hastily points the gun at him, but his hands wobble, causing him to miss his target. Mark seizes the chance and rushes into the room, attacking Harry. In the tussle, Harry drops his gun, resulting in a vicious brawl between the two. Mark manages to stab Harry several times in the arm, leaving him injured. Despite the pain, Harry fights back, ultimately taking out his gun and shooting Mark, who collapses and groans in anguish. Seizing the opportunity, Harry confronts Mark, reminding him of the horrible incident that claimed his wife and children. Harry, desperate for answers, demands to know where the remaining robbers are. Mark, in discomfort, discloses that they are traveling to the countryside to administer drugs. Harry makes him write down the address. For a brief period, Harry lets his guard down, allowing Mark to attempt a knife assault, but Harry quickly intervenes with another shot, halting his advance. In his closing moments, Mark criticizes Harry's wife and daughter, provoking him with obscene language. Harry becomes enraged and beats Mark to death, releasing all of his pent-up fury and anguish. Harry, realizing he has just killed someone, is overcome with guilt and considers suicide. However, as he approaches despair, his thoughts return to his unfulfilled revenge mission. Determined not to give up, he chooses to continue. The next morning, Harry enters the kitchen and runs into Emma. For the first time, they have a brief talk, and Emma opens up about her late spouse. They share a sense of melancholy, and they quickly develop an unspoken attraction. However, before things can get out of hand, Harry steps back, apologizes, and exits the room. The next day, still embarrassed about the situation, Harry apologizes to Emma again. He then requests a day off from work, apparently wanting time to gather his thoughts before resuming his quest for vengeance. After gathering his clothes and pistol, Harry sets out into the countryside, ready to finish what he started. When he arrives, he notices a private plane landing nearby, and a man walks out, accompanied by two of the criminals. They hand him a bag of narcotics, and after a quick exchange, the man gets back into the plane and takes off. Harry learns that something lot more is going on than he originally assumed. With a rush of adrenaline, he loads his gun and cautiously approaches the area. Finally prepared to act, Harry takes a deep breath and fires at the two criminals, hitting both of them. The sound of gunshots draws two more men, Mickey and Emile, out of concealment. In the midst of the pandemonium, Emile manages to stab Harry with a knife, causing him agony, but Harry promptly retaliates by shooting Mickey and Emile. As the situation worsens, the surviving robbers flee in their van, leaving Harry in the dust. As the adrenaline wears off, Harry suddenly experiences a flashback to his wife, overwhelmed by memories of happier times. The anguish of his loss strikes him hard, and he collapses to his knees, filled with grief. In that moment of vulnerability, one of the criminals he believed he had shot earlier slowly rises and approaches him, preparing to attack. Realizing the danger, Harry moves fast, shooting the goon again before he can reach him. With a mix of relief and tiredness, he returns home, knowing he needs to deal with his injuries. At the medical store, Harry meets a doctor who assists him in bandaging his injuries. The doctor carefully sutures his wounds and gives him some shots to prevent infection. Meanwhile, Mickey and Emile return to the scene, only to find that everyone has died. They are shocked and outraged, realizing the enormity of what has occurred. They return to the city only to discover Mark's lifeless body as well. As they prepare to retrieve his body, they come across a receipt from a jewelry store that clearly shows Harry's name and address. Mickey and Emile decide to find Harry after discovering his connection to the chaos. They proceed to the jewelry store and confront the attendant. They intimidate him, demanding to know everything he knows about Harry and his most recent actions. Back at work, Harry bumps into Emma, who announces that she is going on vacation for her birthday. She invites him to join her and gives him the address, making Harry feel both excited and distracted from his problems. Mickey and Emile unexpectedly face Harry after tracking him down, just as Emma is leaving. They point their pistols at him, but in a desperate moment, Harry bites Emile's arm and flees to his room. He pulls his gun and prepares to defend himself, but Emile catches up and violently beats him before throwing him off the first floor. Miraculously, Harry survives the fall and escapes the church, trapping Mickey and Emile. While inside, the two goons begin sifting through Harry's things, looking for clues. They discover one of Henderson's letters, which may lead them to Harry's next move. Meanwhile, Harry desperately tries to contact Henderson for assistance, but he is unable to connect. As he tries for answers, the scene shifts to Emile and Mickey, who have apprehended Henderson. They pour gasoline over his body as the first attempt for what is to come yet. They demand to know where Harry is hiding. When Henderson lies to protect Harry, Emile and Mickey do not hesitate. In a terrible display of desperation, they shoot him, killing him. Then, Harry visits his parents' home and meets his sister, Christy. Christy heals his wounds and instructs him to go to the hospital. Harry informs her that he has apprehended all of the murderers and asks Christy to leave him alone for a few days. After a few days, Christy goes. Harry walks over to his wife and daughter's graves. As he sits there, he meets his father and tells him about the problem. He hands him his gun and some bullets, telling him to prepare for what's coming his way. Soon later, Harry put on his suit and loaded his gun, expecting the goons to come for him. Mickey and Emil discover him and bring another man with them. They begin searching his residence but cannot find him. Then they decide to inspect the barn, while Emil stays at home. As he sits there, he observes blood streaming from his nose. When he turns around, he sees Harry standing at the back, holding his gun. Harry shoots Emil once, but when he reaches for his gun, Harry fires again, killing him. Then Harry goes to the barn and finds Mickey. They engage in a struggle, and Harry drops his gun. He reaches for a nearby knife and stabs Mickey. Mickey tries to flee, but a can of petrol spills all over them. Then, Harry pushes Mickey into the fire, killing him. As Harry believes it's over, he turns around to see another of their men pointing a gun at him. Harry tells him it's over and he should return home. The man listens to him and flees. Following this, Harry returns home and listens to his favorite music. He has a flashback of his wife and daughter and resolves to visit their graves. Harry eventually collapses on the ground in despair. The scene turns to Emma at the beach, waiting for Harry. Suddenly, Harry appears and joins in her jubilation. Thanks for watching. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe for more of these recaps. Until next time, have a nice day.